Hello and welcome to G Hunt. My name is Sandeep, and right now I have with me the director of Sardar Udham Singh, Mr. Shoojit Sircar, and the wonderfully talented Mr. Vicky Kaushal. Hi to the two.
Hi Sandeep.
Hello, Sujitha. Hello, Vicky.
Hello, Sandeep.
Mr. Sircar, my first question is to you. And when we are talking about the color palette of the film, the color palette used in the film is mostly teal and orange, predominantly. When we're talking about this particular color palette, we have seen umpteen films in Hollywood. Forget about Hollywood. We've seen umpteen films in the world cinema scenario where they have used this color palette in an extensive manner and very effectively. Personally speaking, when I kind of see this usage on the big screen, it actually elevates the film. I personally feel it elevates this film, the look and feel of the ambience, the atmosphere to a different level altogether. And the fact that you have used this particular color palette, my question to you is, what were the inferences? From where did you actually get the idea that you would perhaps use this particular color palette in your film? And the second part of my question is, it's a little long, it's a little broader question. The terms that have been used in this particular film. We talk about Marxism, we talk about socialism, we're talking about communism for the matter, which again is borderline Marxism. When we're talking about the freedom struggle of our country and how the freedom fighters have used Marxism to their benefit, and how the Britishers, for that matter, were really scared of the Marxists. There was a hunt for anybody supporting the Marxists, anybody who was a Marxist, for that matter. And the role that Benito Mussolini and Hitler had to play in the freedom struggle, and all of that. When we are using these particular statements, or for that matter, facts, in a particular film, people are not really aware of them. They're definitely, left behind a little bit in understanding the narrative of the film. And when we are using these, facts in the narrative, it also makes it a point to kind of slow down the pace of the film. That's exactly what happened. I spoke to a friend of mine. I told him that what a lovely film this is. But then, he told me, "Acha, Sardar Udham Singh, वो फिल्म तो इतना स्लो है, मैं तो Amazon Prime पे है, वो मतलब बंद कर करके देख रहा हूँ, मतलब पॉज कर करके देख रहा हूँ." So my question to you is, was it a conscious decision on your part to perhaps use this entire, make this entire narrative this way, precisely because of the fact that it was being released on Amazon Prime, which is an OTT, which gives the audiences the liberty to kind of, halt it, pause it, or perhaps, if you're not really finding the content interesting, you perhaps pause it or halt it and you resume it at a later phase, which otherwise is not really done in the cinema. So was it a conscious decision that you actually wrote the narrative, or perhaps imagined the narrative in this particular sequence? And would the narrative be the same, according to you, if the film was made for the big screens, for that matter?
And my third part of the question is, when you're talking about all of these, forget about the third part of the question. You could just perhaps answer these two questions.
So, in terms of the color palette, I think it was Obigda's decision. So, when I initially spoke to him about the film and how and the kind of shots and locations and the mood, he showed me a couple of French, artists' paintings, because he only goes with paintings. Of course, this kind of thing you must have seen, and we have seen in a lot of Hollywood films and European films. There is no shy away of saying that those Hollywood films are also quite an inspiration for
Not just
us.
Hollywood. We've seen, for instance, you take a film like Milena from, it's an Italian film, and it almost had the same color palette. You had that.
Yes, possibly. So
Hollywood is just
have, because
people seem to know about Hollywood, and people know about Hollywood, and especially normal people who are not really literate in cinema, as far as that is concerned.
I would say that my color palette is more than the Hollywood, is more European.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was driving at.
I would say it's more Scandinavian. I would say, because if you see the mist and everything that I wanted to capture in the film in London, I rather say it's more Scandinavian. Scandinavian are more organic. They look out for color palettes and cinematography, which also Abhigda is also belongs to the same. They are quite rooted to the root, in terms of the culture. So even my grading person or even Obigda, they're so common and ordinary. And if you go to Europe, I've never visited London. First, tell you. So I've done London without visited London. So it's all my archive and imagery that I have. So I have not gone to any European country as such, apart from Russia. So, and also for the World Cup football. So that's how I saw it. And I thought I'll do it here. And Ronnie said, okay, let's do it here. So everything that I know is through paintings and through pictures and photographers and Obigda. So that was purely Obigda decision and the painting that he showed me, and he followed that. And the Indian color palette was different that he showed, and then he kept as much, color and chroma in it, and little oranges also, in his color palette, which I think was quite fresh, and it gave me a very modern feel rather than a very too much of a period film, so that, it just sensed very fresh and, not dated. So I think that was the idea. Your second part of the question is a huge and a long discussion. So I can't just give you an answer on this in few minutes, but it's a huge discussion. I mean, you're asking about the socialism and the communism and why the British were. So let me quickly give you example. During the 1940s, when the communist movement started in Britain, especially the Communist Party of London and Britain, there was an hunt down of those of the people. I mean, who they thought have rebel ideas, and communists, they were hunting down. So if you see in the film also that the girl Eileen, she is from there, and Surat Ali was a part of the labor, union. And he takes help of Udham, and Udham goes and takes help of her. So there was a lot of interaction, and also Bhagat Singh formed HSRA, which is a socialist, and he was a little socialist Marxist, somewhere in the middle. He was not a pure communist, but he was somewhere in the middle, adapting Marxism and socialism somewhere. So I think it was there. So I just wanted that, and there's no way that I would shy away, because it was fact. It is there in Bhagat Singh's books. It is there, and even Udham followed Bhagat Singh. So if that truth has to be shown what it was, and I had to show it, that what they were actually. So different kind of political ideologies were at that time was activated. It was the activism was in a different sense. I mean, one side was the non-violent Gandhi who was taking, on the other side it was this, on the third side other. So there was many platforms who were all working together for an independent India possibly, and so this was one side of it, and it was there in history. And OTT, maybe OTT was a very good platform, I think, we decided, because our experience with Gulabo was quite good. I think it reached that well, spread so fast.
No, what I'm asking is...
but ask me,
the thing is, I mean, like for instance, as I said, all of these ideologies and all of these factual things that were incorporated in the film, especially the first half, and then obviously the entire massacre that happened, and it was focused on the second.
So I got your point. So my important stamp of approval was CBFC. Okay.
Achha.
So I think we all. So now also Amazon has also made it that even when they saw it, also they also felt that are we going to censor? I said, of course, the censor will have to censor. So I think CBFC's whatever leniency to look out on this film was, I think, absolutely commendable. I really appreciate all the CBFC members. I thank Prasoon for creating and giving a team who understood the film, that it requires that kind of a violence or the blood or whatever we have spoken about, right movement or Bhagat Singh. So I think their stamp of approval was the ultimate in terms of approval for me, that I could release it in theater or in OTT. It's not that I could not release in theater, so that's why I went to OTT, and without an approval. If you see, there's a proper censor certificate there on the top of the film.
Yeah, Vicky.
I hope you got my answer, right?
Yeah, I got your answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vicky, what was your takeaway from the role?
And also,
Seeping yourself into a character like this, especially with an author background, a role which is mostly, I mean, it wouldn't really be an exaggeration to say that the writing, the direction, the post production, sorry, the production part of it was the pre-production part of it, and the production part of it was, I mean, it would be the hero of the film. How difficult was it to perhaps, as an actor, to seep yourself in the character and then snap out of it?
To answer the first half of the question, which was
what was your takeaway from the film?
yes. See, for me, what was the biggest revelation was their ideology. See, we have all been conditioned to grow up to these words of freedom and equality.
Yeah.
But what they were speaking of 100 years back was freedom and equality on a global level, as a world citizen, not just as an Indian citizen. When they talked about freedom and equality, they would talk about each and every person in the world feeling equal, each and every person in the world feeling free. And that for me was a revelation. I was like, yeah, why do I always connect freedom to just for me feeling free as an Indian? Why not me feeling free as a world citizen? So that for me, in terms of the ideology, was my biggest takeaway from this film. And also, of course, that sometimes what happens is in our lifestyle, in our age, in this digital age, when you're bombarded with information is old after 24 hours, to not somewhere down the line, it is important for us and for the generations to come ahead to always remember the kind of sacrifices that have gone through for us to be living in a free country today. To keep discussing them, to keep remembering them, to keep showing them to the present generation, and to the generations ahead. To kind of understand the real value of those sacrifices. Freedom did not come easy to us. It really came at a cost. And the least we can do is to kind of remember them and learn from them. And also to kind of realize that there's a Sardar Udham in each one of us. It like Sujita mentioned earlier on, a revolutionary is not a revolutionary just because he's holding a pistol or throwing a bomb or having a talwar. It's in the ideology. Today, Greta is a revolutionary who's a kid who's talking about climate change. Today Elon Musk could be probably a revolutionary who's thinking about settling in Mars. But so a revolutionary is a revolutionary when it's in your thoughts and in your ideas, not just because you're holding a gun or you're killing somebody or you're throwing a bomb. So these were my takeaways.
For an actor, as an actor, when you're perhaps when the director perhaps explains a particular scene to you or a sequence to you, and you have your own thought process to it, and you know what to do, and you do your thing in front of the camera, and then how long it takes for you to perhaps snap out of that mind space. How long does it take for you to perhaps once the director calls a cut, how long does it take for you to be Vicky Kaushal once again?
Yeah, no, it was something. It was challenging because firstly, to make an emotional graph of a character who is not very extensively or elaborately discussed in our history books. He's not a character who's really documented well in the books or in films or whatever. All that is documented about him is from him assassinating Michael O'Dwyer, the letters that he wrote in the prison, his courtroom trials, and that he got hung after 3 months of imprisonment. Those are the only things that are documented. Apart from that, if you have to live the 20 years journey before that, to kind of really do the research, and I mean the team, we had an incredible team to do the research, and plus Sujita, who's been living with this film for 20 years, to kind of jot down those points, and then once you have them on paper as to where he was and what he was doing at what point of time, and then to have to find that emotional graph of this person was a little challenging. And plus, how the film is also non-linear in its structure and all of that, and plus we have very few words to kind of portray that emotion and to kind of really say out those emotions to the audiences. So to kind of get a mental grasp of those emotions, and that graph was the most challenging part for me as an actor.
All right, so that was a very lovely and a very enlightening repartee with Vicky Kaushal and the director of Udham Singh, Mr. Shoojit Sircar. My name is Sandeep with Digihant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let it go.